Hi, welcome to Karayo. So in this episode of the Lead Code series, we are going to solve the question of richest customer wealth. So this is the 1672nd episode, or not episode, the question of Lead Code. So here we are given an m into n integer grid accounts. So it's essentially a matrix. It's a fancy way of telling a matrix. Okay, so this account or a matrix has obviously ij, a two row and a column index, is the amount of money the ith customer has in the jth bank. So essentially, in this matrix, the rows represent the customers and the columns represent the banks. And essentially, what banks mean itself, the customer I has certain amount in each of these banks. So those are stored in the columns respectively. Okay, so I'll give you a sample look at the matrix that is given to us here. So this represents, the row represents the customer and the column represents the amount that is present in each of these banks under the customer's name. Okay, so 2 rupees or 2000 rupees or 2 lakh rupees, whatever it's your wish. So 2 units of money is present in bank 1 for this person, and 8 rupees under bank 2 and 7 rupees under bank 3. And similarly, for each of these customers, we have these many units of money under their name in each of these banks. So this is the matrix that is given to us, and the name of this matrix is accounts. Okay, so with this information, return the wealth that the richest customer has. So we have to return the wealth the richest customer has. So how do we determine the wealth and that who is the richest customer? So the customer's wealth is the amount of money that they have in all their banks. Okay, so a customer A has 5 in bank 1, 5 in bank 2, 5 in bank 3. So the total wealth is 15, 5 plus 5 plus 5. So similarly, the customer's wealth can be calculated just by adding up all their wealth in or balance in each of these banks. Okay, so the richest customer is the customer that has the maximum wealth. Okay, so in plain sight, each row represents the person's wealth. So 2 plus 8 plus 7 represents the wealth of this person, and 7 plus 1 plus 3 represents the wealth of this person, and the one with the maximum wealth is the value that we want. Okay, so the value of the maximum wealth. Okay, so how do we do that? So we need the values of each of their wealth. So for that, we'll just add these values. So 2 plus 8 plus 7, that gives us 17, and that is the wealth of the first person. Now we have to find the maximum wealth, right? So we have a value called max, and it is initially set to integer min. Okay, now we'll compare integer min with 17. Which is bigger? 17 is bigger, or 17 is maximum, and hence our value gets updated to 17. Now we move on to the next customer. So 7 plus 1, 8, 8 plus 3 is 11. Now we compare 11 and the maximum 17. So our current maximum is 17, and the current value or the current row sum or the current person's wealth is 11. We compare these two. We already have the maximum person's wealth here. So if we compare, we do not get the maximum value, and hence we don't update the value. 1 plus 9 plus 5. In this case, we get 15. We compare 15 with 17. It is not greater than 17, and hence we do not change the value. So essentially, what we are doing here is we are calculating the row sum of each of these persons, and whichever one has the maximum row sum has the maximum wealth. So our question becomes, first find the maximum row sum. Okay, so the row sum denotes the wealth, and in those row sum, whichever is the maximum, so the maximum row sum is our answer. So this question, when simplified, is just to find the maximum row sum. So find the row sum for each of these customers and then find the maximum out of it, and that is our answer. So here we have the algorithm for this. First, use a nested loop, of course, because we have a matrix, we of course need a nested loop in order to get through all of these values. So the next point is to find the row sum of all these values. Like we saw in the demonstration, we need to find the row sum of each of these customers, which represents the wealth of these customers. So the third point is to compare whether the row sum is greater than the already existing max. Because if it is greater, then we have found a new maximum or a new wealthier person. Then in that case, we would update the value of max and we'll repeat the loop. So for each person, we find the row sum, that is their wealth. We compare it to the already existing maximum wealth. If it is greater, then this is the new wealth or the new maximum wealth. We update it to max. If not, we just repeat the loop. Okay. And at last, after all these for loops, we'll have a value stored in max, and that is the richest customer's wealth, and that becomes our answer. So this is the logic that we have in order to solve this question. Now we'll move to LeetCode and solve this given question. While I explain you this function, go down to the YouTube subscribe button and just click it. Okay. So here we have the maximum wealth function. So this takes the matrix accounts as input and returns the integer, which is the maximum customer's wealth. Okay. So wealth of the richest customer, whichever way you want to phrase it. Okay. So first, how do we get started? We just first get started by declaring the max value to integer min. So integer dot min value. So this is where we start. Now what do we do next? We have the nested for loop, right? So for int I is equal to 0, I is less than accounts dot length I plus plus. And similarly, for int j is equal to 0, j is less than accounts of I dot length j plus plus. So we are essentially traversing the whole matrix. Before we do that, what do? We need to find the row sum. So how do we find the row sum? For each row, we first declare the row sum is equal to 0. So initially the row sum is 0. At each iteration, we add the given number into the row sum. So row sum plus equal to accounts of I of j. So this for loop calculates the row sum for each of these person. And now what do? We compare it with the maximum value. So if the row sum is greater than the already existing maximum value, we update the value. So maximum is equal to row sum. Else we just move on to the next iteration. We move on to the next customer and find their row sum or their wealth. And then if their wealth is greater than the other existing maximum, and then we update the value, move on to the next customer. Similarly, we check for each and every customer, calculate their wealth, check whether it's greater than the already existing maximum. If so, make this person's wealth the maximum, move on to the next iteration. So after the end of this for loop, we'll get something stored in the maximum, and that is the richest customer's wealth. So return max. That completes our code. Now let's run this code and verify whether we have successfully completed it. Yeah, so this runs perfectly. Now let's submit this code and verify our output. Okay, so congratulations on solving this question with this. Now with this, we've come to the end of this video. If you love this video, please drop a like and comment down below if you have any queries. And don't forget to subscribe to Code. We'll see you in the next episode of the LeetCode. Until then, bye bye.